All right, everybody, welcome back. We're jumping right into another deep dive today.
This should be interesting.
Yeah, you guys wanted to get a grip on what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, particularly Russia's stance on how to end the war. We got some interesting things to talk about from a statement by Russia's foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov.
Oh, yeah.
Seems like Russia wasn't too happy with some peace proposals that came out from President-elect Donald Trump's team.
Interesting.
So let's break that down, figure out what's going on, and what it all means for the bigger picture.
Yeah, that's quite the headline there. So Lavrov basically said that Russia isn't satisfied with two main points. The first being a proposal to delay Ukraine joining NATO for 20 years.
Yeah, okay.
And the second, having peacekeepers from the EU and UK deployed.
Okay, no, wait. Why would Russia be against those ideas? I mean, on the surface, those sound like they could de-escalate things, right?
Right, and that's what makes it so interesting, because Russia's reaction kind of suggests they might be looking for more than just a pause in the fighting. Like, they're probably trying to get some long-term strategic advantages.
Okay.
And to understand why pushing back on NATO is so important to them, we got to look at it from their perspective. They see NATO expansion as a direct threat. It's like encroaching on what they see as their own sphere of influence.
They're not just focused on the immediate situation. They're thinking about the long game.
Exactly. And this is where Andrei Kovalenko's take comes in.
Okay.
He's the head of the Center for Countering Disinformation,
Okay.
which is a Ukrainian organization focused on basically debunking Russian propaganda, especially about the war. And Kovalenko argues that Russia rejecting these proposals could be a sign that they're more and more reluctant to end the war at all.
Wow, that's a serious claim.
Yeah.
So what does Kovalenko think needs to happen to get Russia to negotiate then?
Well, he thinks that Russia only really responds to strength. He's advocating for something he calls clipping Russia's wings. Yeah. Which boils down to weakening them economically.
Yeah.
And disrupting their military supply chains. You know, he uses the example of crippling their military logistics, basically making it super hard for them to move troops and weapons and supplies around.
Yeah.
And he argues that only when the cost of war gets too high will Putin even think about changing his objectives.
It's a pretty hardline stance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that a common view in Ukraine? Or is Kovalenko kind of an outlier?
It's hard to say how widespread that view is, but it
Yeah.
definitely shows that there's a lot of frustration building with the lack of progress in peace talks.
Yeah.
And it brings up some tough questions, you know? Like, is there even any point in negotiating with Russia right now? But do they only respect brute force? And if so, what does that mean for Ukraine and its allies? How should they be approaching this conflict?
Yeah, good questions. Now, Kovalenko also mentioned something, called it a traditional Russian tactic, multiplying nonsense to gain time. What did he mean by that?
Oh, right. He's talking about basically a strategy of creating confusion and distraction. Like, think of it like throwing a smoke bomb. They might make crazy claims or propose things they know will be rejected,
Right.
all just to buy themselves some time.
Yeah.
It lets them regroup, change their focus, or wait for a better opportunity
Right.
without actually giving up anything.
Okay, so you're saying maybe Lavrov's statement is part of that tactic. It's not really about negotiating. It's just a way to keep everyone guessing and buy Russia some time.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. And that's what makes this whole thing so tricky.
Yeah.
You got Lavrov playing hardball, Kovalenko pushing for a show of force. Everyone's left wondering, what can actually influence Putin? Is there any breaking point for Russia, short of completely defeating them militarily?
Wow, a lot to think about. So we learned that Lavrov rejecting those peace proposals suggests Russia might want something more than just a ceasefire. And Kovalenko's insights definitely add another layer of complexity to the whole situation. It all comes down to one big question. What will it take to end this war? Keep digging, keep asking questions, and who knows, maybe you'll be the one to figure it all out. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for tuning in.
See ya.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive.